Hello, everyone, and welcome into your Twin Flame energy read for the end of September. So, today we'll be taking a look at the energy from the Divine Feminine perspective, Divine Masculine, and then the energy of the connection, as well as doing some oracle cards to give some additional insight here. So, let's go ahead and jump in and see what is going on with our Divine Feminine. All right. So the push from the universe is the Sun in reverse. Their current energy is Queen of Wands in reverse. In the soul space, it is Four of Pentacles in reverse. The challenge is the Five of Cups. The advice from Spirit is the Queen of Cups. And then the likely outcome or next level of energy is the Emperor in reverse. So starting with what the push from the universe is. So the sun in reverse is kind of that pessimism, and it also has to do with your inner child. So the push from the universe here is that you're kind of in that sort of energy that, here, let me move these where they're a little more centered. So it's showing that your inner child needs some work. So it could be a situation where for Divine Feminine, you've been giving so much and you've been putting somebody else's needs so much more ahead of your own that you're really ignoring your inner child, and you're pushing down your own needs and making it all about the other person. So this happens a lot with Divine Feminine, especially if you're kind of new on the journey and you're just starting out. There's definitely that feeling when you first get on the journey or first become awakened to the fact that this is the journey that you're on, where it's this like obsessive chasing, like, oh my gosh, I have to have this person, I have to do this, and you're almost like you're falling to pieces for this other person. And so this push from the universe is look at your inner child. What are you doing to make sure that your inner child is being honored? And that one of the pieces of advice that a lot of times I'll give, and I do this on my dresser. I have a picture of me from when I was 3 years old, but find like the cutest picture you can of you when you were younger and have that framed or have that somewhere where you see it a lot. And that can be your kind of like your visual reminder of the fact that you do deserve to be treated well. Somebody should be fighting for that child, and most of the time that's you need to be fighting for that child. So how you're showing up right now, this Queen of Wands in reverse, is it's a little bit of this like overbearing selfish energy. So with this coming across that this is a reading for for Divine Feminines who are just kind of still coming to terms with the journey and still heavy in that chaser energy, this Queen of Wands in reverse energy, this overbearing selfish energy, as to how you're showing up is kind of, I would say, is kind of consistent. In the soul space with your Four of Pentacles in reverse, it is this kind of, it's a sense of generosity and overspending, but it's also the fact that you're overspending, that you're over contributing into the situation. So you're energetically, you're putting too much into it, like you're chasing too much. And that is, it does come across oftentimes to the masculine as being this like overbearing energy. And it's interesting because there is kind of this sense of, I see this on groups all the time where the Divine Feminine will ask the question about, well, but is this person really my twin flame, or are they just a narcissist? And it's like, well, wait a second. Kind of the assumption is that all the Divine Masculines are narcissists. And so it's like, but is it a twin flame as well, or just a regular narcissist? And it's interesting. There is a little bit of a narcissistic element to Divine Feminine because there is that line of thinking. And so, I mean, and you have to be careful with these labels of narcissist. I mean, there's a difference in somebody having narcissistic personality disorder, like a clinically diagnosed psychiatric condition, versus somebody who has narcissistic tendencies versus somebody who's just a self-absorbed jerk. So there's definitely a difference there. So make sure that you're using the right words when you're talking about it. But there is that element of, you know, hints of narcissism when the divine feminine acts like, well, if the DM would just understand, if they would just realize how much I love them, then of course everything would be better. If they would just realize that they need to, walk away from this karmic situation, if they would just realize, so there's that, with that type of thinking, it has embedded within it an element of the DF being self-absorbed or, narcissistic tendencies, because it's the assumption that if the DM knew what you knew, then of course they would be making a decision that's consistent with what your decision is. So there's an arrogance to that. So make sure that you're watching how you're thinking about it. Like, well, if I could just explain this to the DM, if they would just get it, if they would just listen, then it would be better. So make sure that you're not falling into that trap, because like I said, there's a huge vein of arrogance that runs with that if they just knew what you knew, of course they would agree with you. So be mindful of how you think about that, because energetically that's what you're pushing, is an overbearing energy of, well, of course I know better. If you would just wake up and listen to me, this would all be fine. So make sure that you're not in that mindset. Your challenge right now that you have is the Five of Cups. So your challenge is this sense of grief and sadness and loss. Like you're looking at what are these cups, and so it's kind of that sense of, if you're in that chasing energy, it's that grief and that loss, that sadness of, well, why can't I just be with this person? Like I'm awakened, I know what this connection is, and they're not aware of it. So there's another channel that I watch, and I do love the way she describes it, of the feminine needing to have more confidence in the masculine, that things are playing out the way they're supposed to. So maybe it's that the masculine hasn't come towards you yet because you still have things that you need to work on. Um, you know, and that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, because it's like, but I just love you so much and I want to be together. Well, some of that type of energy needs to be scaled back. And until you can learn to balance that energy, the masculine is probably going to be keeping a little bit more distance than you would like. So some of that energy I equate to kind of being like a puppy. You love your puppy when you get it, but sometimes, especially after a little while, it's like, oh my gosh, puppy, like get out of my face, stop jumping all over me, stop trying to tackle and lick me. I just want to sit here and read my book or whatever it is that you're doing. It's not that you don't love your puppy. It's just, oh my gosh, you're too much in my face. So sometimes depending on how things are going, like how strong the chaser energy is, just keep that visual in mind, that you don't want to be that super spazzy puppy that's like up in their face the whole time. So, so your challenge is that grief and balancing that sense of, but I just want to be with my masculine. I just want to be in union, and it's having to balance that out. So advice from Spirit is the Queen of Cups energy. So it's that kindness and that caring and that compassion. And this is not just directed at showing that kindness and compassion to your masculine. It's showing it to you. So, she's sitting there in this one. She's sitting there all by herself, just quiet contemplation. And there's this bird right there, so she's just sitting there quietly, having that sense of kindness and compassion. She's taking care of herself, taking that time to meditate. So make sure, and this goes along with that comment I made about, get a picture of yourself when you're little. Love and adore and dote on that person. That person deserves to be loved. And right now, if your masculine's in a place where they're not doing that, you need to be the one to do it, because, just like you're saying, oh, you love your masculine so much they deserve to be taken care of. Well, you deserve to be taken care of. So you need to take care of you. And that will help kind of bring things into balance. The likely outcome with the Emperor in reverse, this is a little bit of a sense of like lack of control. And the Emperor in reverse kind of has that sense of like rigidity and domination. So, from the perspective, if this is a very strong divine feminine chaser energy, the likely outcome, if you can't if you can't kind of control this spiraling sense of grief and loss and sadness, and if you can't redirect that and turn that inward to take care of yourself, the likely outcome is going to end up being this when it says lack of control and domination, you will feel like you're not in control. Like you're going to feel like things are way out of control, and how come this, like, why isn't my situation getting better? But then it also has that sense of you're trying too hard to control the situation. You're trying too hard to dominate the situation and, like, essentially energetically overpower the masculine to say, but if you would just get on board with me. This type of energy can be avoided if you're able to turn it inward and show that love, show that attention, show that affection to your inner child. So that's the energy, that's the read that's coming through for the divine feminine. So for today, if you're early in the journey, this might be, I would say this message is probably more for you than people who have been on this journey for a long time and have worked on kind of balancing the energetic fields, because it's very much coming through as like a message for people who are in super strong chaser energy. All right, let's see what is going on and so then this masculine read will be consistent, tapping into the situations where it was the strong chaser energy. So let's see. Push from the universe is the star in reverse. Interesting. They are showing up as Ace of Swords in reverse. In the soul space, they're Page of Wands. The challenge is the Four of Wands. Sorry, I blipped out. Like, what is that space? Challenge. The push from the universe is or advice from spirit is Page of Swords. And likely outcome is Nine of Cups in reverse. So with the star in reverse, the push from the universe here, there's kind of this sense of, for the divine masculine, it's like there's this lack of faith and distrust and feeling uninspired. So that's what the universe is trying to push the masculine out of, because they're in that space of, being distrustful. And how they're showing up right now, the Ace of Swords in reverse, is they're confused. There's like this chaos, this kind of lack of focus. So it could be that your situation is kind of on that transition from the bubble love to, they're starting to have an awakening, but it's feeling really crazy and chaotic. In the soul space, they're in this Page of Wands energy. So there is some excitement and some optimism, like in the soul space, because what happens, like with soul recognition, it happens at the soul level. And that's why, soul recognition. So there is that sense at the soul level of being happy and excited, like, okay, that's stage one. You've had the interaction, you've had that acknowledgement that's, that you've met your twin flame, that you've met your other self, your other soul. So the challenge, though, is coming into harmonious union. So the Four of Wands is a big card in the twin flame world. That's about union. So the challenge is coming into union. So in the soul space, they're happy. The divine masculine is happy and joyful and optimistic and all of that, and they're excited. But how they're showing up right now is this sense of, oh my gosh, they're confused. They don't really know what's going on. This is more powerful of a connection than they're used to feeling. So it's leaving them feeling very confused. Advice from spirit, there's this like cynicism and bluntness and kind of this manipulation. So they're feeling like that's what's going on, and kind of this cynical sense in the 3D, with the likely outcome being the Nine of Cups in reverse. That's kind of this feeling of disappointment. So if they can't control some of this cynicism, they're going to end up being disappointed, and they're going to feel disappointed by the connection, because it's like there's a part of them that's going, wait a second, this is so exciting, this is new and different, and it's scary. And then if they can't control some of these thoughts or feelings of kind of being cynical about, oh, well, this always happens. It starts off starts off great and then it goes downhill. So if they can't control that type of thinking, it's going to end up leading to this sense of being disappointed. So for them, they're still coming to terms with it. Like I said, the good news is at the soul level, they've recognized what this connection is, but it's going to be, I would say, a lot of work before they can kind of settle into acknowledging the connection. So let's see from a time frame perspective when it looks like the masculine will kind of come out of some of this sense of cynicism and chaos. So once you fully surrender to the divine. So that's a little ambiguous for them, but it's the whole idea of this connection is not on some linear scale. It's not some calendar thing of, okay, well, we make it through, 2 falls, 2 winters, and then by the following spring, that means that we're going to be at this stage in our relationship. No, it's all about when do they come to understand what this connection is? When do they fully surrender? And that's what's going to pull them out of this feeling of chaos. Like when they can surrender to the divine and say, you know what, life is unfolding the way it's supposed to be unfolding, and kind of come to terms with that, that will help push them into a better sense of peace and calm and understanding. So let's take a look at the actual connection itself and see what comes up. Push from the universe is the Lovers in reverse. How the connection is showing up is Wheel of Fortune. In the soul space, it is Ace of Wands in reverse. In the challenge space is the Emperor. Advice from Spirit is Ace of Cups. And the likely outcome is the Moon. So the Lovers in reverse, kind of that push, the Lovers in reverse is about being imbalanced and a sense of like there's some distrust and disharmony. And so the push from the universe is how do you balance that out? And some of it, when in a lot of the twin flame things, when they say divine feminine goes first, it's because it's up to you to scale back. I'll call it that spazzy puppy energy. It's up to you to bring that into balance to allow the masculine, like the breathing room and the space to be able to come in to the connection more willingly and enthusiastically. So you want to be able to give that space to the masculine because, yes, you want to be with them, but you want to be with them because they want to be with you, not because, oh, good, I finally broke them down. And after badgering and chasing, they finally relented. Like that's not going to give you the warm and fuzzy feelings that, hey, this union came online because it's supposed to. Like you want them to be willingly and enthusiastically coming into the connection. So you need to throttle down some of your energy a little bit. How it's showing up in the 3D, this Wheel of Fortune, it's destined and fated. It happens like this. Many twin flame scenarios are like that, where once that bubble love phase happens and then something happens that takes it offline, then that's when the feminine chases. So when I'm saying this, it's not a reflection of you're not doing it right type of thing. That's how a lot of these connections go. Everybody's journey is going to be different, but that's how a lot of these connections go. And it's funny because actually, look at this card with the Wheel of Fortune. And this is specific. This is an Alice in Wonderland deck. Look at this Wheel of Fortune card. She is chasing him and he is running away. Like the white rabbit is running away and Alice is like frantically chasing after him. So I think it's hilarious that this card came up, that this is how it's showing up in the 3D, is that Alice is like frantically chasing the white rabbit. So that's how it's showing up in the 3D. Like I said, that's how it often shows up. So don't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm such a failure. But part of this journey is, learning to not chase and learning to be confident that this connection will come online when it's supposed to and how it's supposed to. And you have to be patient. And some of the times, like even with this whole chasing energy, and you'll hear about, oh, divine or, feminine needs to stop chasing. Think about it like if and I keep using dog examples. If your dog gets out, if you start running after it and chasing it, it keeps running. But what happens when you stop? Usually then the dog stops running away. They may kind of wander back towards you. And the interesting thing is if you start running back towards your house, your dog's going to chase you. So there is some of that type of feeling to it. In the 3D with your Ace of Wands in reverse, that is, there's a little bit of lack of creativity. Like, so there's kind of in the 3D space, we don't want to say promises that have been broken, because in the 5D space, in the soul space, things don't get broken like that. Like, things are happening for a reason, but there is a little bit of that sense of it's not all super hunky-dory, necessarily. So there is going to be some challenge, because usually what will happen is things happen in the soul space, like 5D first, and then it pushes into the 3D. So it looks like there is maybe still some work that needs to be done, working on bridging that connection in the 5D. So instead of physically chasing, you can work on maybe some of your telepathy, energetically wishing well for your masculine, things like that. In the challenge space is the Emperor. And so this is that strong masculine type of energy. So that's almost like, that rigid, this is what we're doing. The masculine has spoken. They don't want the connection, so the connection's not happening. And so that's kind of the challenge, is how do you shift the masculine out of that energy to allow the connection to come online? And some of it is this whole thing of stop chasing. In the advice from Spirit, this Ace of Cups energy, Ace of Cups is about love and inspiration and being creative. So the push there is, how do you inspire the other person? How do you, love them in a way that feels comfortable for them? So some of this is going to be a matter of creativity, because oftentimes when we're talking to our partner and we're trying to show them that we love them, we're showing them behaviors that we would like to see if we were being shown that we're loved. So, if you're whatever, showing up on their doorstep with pizza on a Friday night unannounced, it's probably because you would like them to show up on your doorstep and surprise you with a meal to show that they love you. But for your partner, for the masculine, that may be really, really off-putting. Like, so it's kind of that learning their love languages. So it's going to take some creativity to be able to see how is it that they recognize and receive love, and then be kind of in line with those sorts of behaviors. The likely outcome or next level of energy is the Moon. So this is kind of this sense of anxiety. There's also the sense of deception and lies and like illusions, what's happening under the dark of night. So with the connection itself, there's also this element of like lying to yourself, or feeling duped, because with this one, the walrus and the carpenter, they're duping the little oysters into coming with them, and then they eat them in Alice in Wonderland. So there is this sense of the next likely outcome is that somebody may feel like they're kind of being tricked. So, you need to make sure that with this, in terms of the advice of how do you find a way to show the person love, show them support, so that way they don't feel like they're being, kind of like tricked, or they don't feel like they're in danger or being lied to. So it's like, how do you find that legitimate, honest connection point with the other person where you're still being true to yourself, and because you don't want to put on a front. So when I'm saying find a way that's comfortable for them, for both parties, you also want to make sure that you're still being true to yourself. So when I say find something that feels comfortable for both parties, it's not about how do I transform myself to be exactly what the other person wants, because that's an illusion. That's, not an honest connection point. But it's a matter of appreciating the person for who they are, how they are, and seeing, is this comfortable for me to show up and support the person in that way. So, okay, let's take a look at our moon card. See what comes up. Nothing is yet set in stone. So even this, ooh, look at those colors. This is that great reminder. If you watch the daily videos on the channel, you'll know that messages, like for me, when I'm reading messages, for me come in so much stronger when the color palettes all match. And so, particularly those two, but even in that one with this part here, nothing is yet set in stone. So having that feeling of being taken advantage of or tricked or deceived or whatever, that is not set in stone. So you can change that. Like either one of you can change that. Let's be honest, most likely you're divine feminine if you're watching this video. You can change it by changing the way you interact with your masculine, by changing the way you interact with this scenario. So, changing some of this chaser energy, changing the way that you're showing them love and support and listening to them in terms of how they want to receive love and support. And you can change some of that dynamic for you. So it's not set in stone. And even this whole idea of, the runner chaser energy, and some people say, people run in, that persists for a long time. It doesn't have to persist for a long time. Everybody's connection is different. There's no one set template as to how this goes. So you can change it. You just have to be aware of what you're doing and have that inner standing of what is this journey. This journey is not about the other person. This journey is about you. So at the beginning, when I opened and was talking about having that picture of you as a young child, and who is taking care of that child, who is fighting for that child, that needs to be you, because that's what this journey is about. It's about, stop chasing the white rabbit, focus on you. And I know that's a hard message at the very beginning, because it's like, yeah, but if things were better with my masculine, then I could focus on me. But it's kind of backwards. You need to focus on you so that you can be the best version of you before having somebody else in there. And so this was our jumper card, and I'll pull another one. If you aren't happy, make different choices. So that's kind of the whole thing of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So you've been chasing, that hasn't been working, it's been making you unhappy. You need to make different choices, and that will help bring in that happiness. And this one is, you're stronger than you realize. So you can do it. It's just, it's a mental shift in terms of, how do I get out of that energy? How do I bring it back into me? How do I bring myself into balance, into the calm, wise dog, instead of from the example earlier, the spazzy, bouncy puppy that's all over the place. So how do I bring myself into that calm, peaceful state? All right, and let's take a look at our card. Past life relationship. You have known each other before. So, and I mean, this goes along with, this is destined and fated, and it's just, with these lessons for souls that decide to split and incarnate here in this scenario, it's because there are certain lessons that you've decided that you want to learn. And this is maybe call it a faster way to do it. I know right now it probably seems like it's painfully slow. Like, oh my gosh, could this get any harder? Could this get any worse? But over the course of, thousands and thousands of years and lifetimes, this is a faster way to do it, because there is that shocking difference or realization. There's that pain of separation until you can understand that you're not really separated from the person physically, maybe, yes, but at the soul level, you're one. So this is, you've known each other before. This is and this is like a destined and fated scenario for you, but it is all about you as a soul getting to those levels of awakening, getting to that point of understanding. So I hope this has been helpful for you today. And as always, take only what resonates. Like I said, this seemed to be very, very strong divine feminine chaser energy, like right out of the gates. So I would imagine this is probably a message directed more towards people that are very early on their journey. So So depending on where you are in your journey, this may not resonate as much, or it may be one of those situations where you go, yep, that's where I was. So certainly if you're further along in your journey and you have experienced these types of dynamics and you've moved past them, I would welcome you to share that in the comments and let other people know, who are earlier on in their journey that yes, this is normal. Yes, it does get better, and help kind of uplift other people that might be experiencing some challenges on their journey. So I will be posting the videos for the first half of October for each of the individual zodiac signs, as well as some other ones coming up here soon. So make sure to hit the subscribe and notification bell if you want to be alerted as to when those videos post. Otherwise, I wish you peace and joy along your journey. Until next time, bye-bye.